You're listening to Weird and Dead, the paleontology podcast that tells evolution's most embarrassing and bizarre stories. I'm Megan Wetherell.
And I'm Amy Atwater, and we're two living scientists who are weirdly excited about dead things. Would you vote for your state fossil to be the giant beaver? Well, if you live in Minnesota, you might have the chance to do just that. Be feminist. Vote giant beaver.
We'll also dip south and visit a controversial yet deeply dumb argument that ultimately is just body shaming a long-dead capybara.
Like always, our episodes are not for kids unless you want them to know a lot of slang for vaginas. Please check the content warnings and assume that we will always make the most obvious dirty joke. You're welcome. Oh, rodents of unusual size is what we're talking about today. I have a fun anecdote for us to talk about. So this fall, the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Oh, yeah.
The thing is, if you hadn't told me that Minneapolis was in Minnesota, I would not have known which state we were in.
I only forgive that because of confusing things like Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. So otherwise, it's Minneapolis.
Yeah, that is fair. That's really dumb.
It gives it away in the name. Okay. All right. Whatever. We're moving on.
Whatever.
So the meeting was there. Cool. I almost said Wisconsin stuff. JK. And I was talking to this student I used to work with who is from Minnesota. And he was telling me about the process of the state trying to adopt a state fossil and how they had a vote in 2021 and the giant beaver won the vote by a landslide. No one's surprised. Yeah. No one's surprised. But that it's taken a while for it to actually go into effect because there's some controversy around it being the state fossil because it's a giant beaver and it's a joke and some people are not into it. And also because the official name is Castorides ohioensis. And they're like, well, what the fuck? It's not we're Minnesota. I don't want some Ohio motherfucker up in here.
Well, I feel like first off, you're reclaiming Ohio bullshit, you're taking it from them, and that's got to mean something. And also, it's feminist to have a giant beaver as your state fossil.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You love beaver. That is so great in this day and age. We support beavers. The gianter, the better. Big brown beaver. Yes.
Big brown floppy beaver. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and apparently back in 1988, they also pushed to make Castorides the state fossil, and it never made it through the legislation for these exact reasons. But now, literally in the last 2 months, they have been at the different blah, blah, blah state government things. And there are all these pictures of this guy from the Science Museum of Minnesota where the opening night was for SVP.
Is it Alex Hastings?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've seen some of his TikToks talking about the giant beaver.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of pictures of him holding a giant beaver. Many giant beavers. So many giant beavers. He's the giant beaver guy. He is the
He's
giant
a beaver
man.
Collector.
Yeah, I'm sure oh God. Right? And so, I found a few Reddit threads because I was trying desperately to find a record of someone being this is we don't want to be called slang for woman's vagina. So I couldn't, but I did find some Reddit posts that were all just yeah, of course I voted for the giant beaver. Why would I vote for
anything else? Yeah.
But do you want to hear the other contenders? The other contenders were the one that came in second was Bison antiquus. And then we also had some belemnite, stromatolite. That's what I would have voted for.
Okay.
Some shark teeth, trilobite, saber-toothed cat, croc relative thing, Columbian mammoth. That's basic, guys. A lot of states already have that one. Yeah. And so those were the contenders. And the giant beaver, Castorides ohioensis, won. And it is still up in the air if it's going to actually be officially added to the list of state things, because every state has a state bird and a state flower and a state beaver.
Listen, you just have to think of it as it's only gonna come up when people are talking about your state, which means that it is tourism potential. Think of all of the dumb, jokey tourist things you could do with giant beaver as a t-shirt. You got to get that marketing money. Minnesota.
I went to
Forgot what
Wisconsin.
state it
Nope,
was.
the wrong state. Nope. I say I gave you so much shit. I went to Minnesota and all I got was this giant beaver. Right. Like there's
Yeah.
just so many.
Yeah.
No. And a lot of pop culture jokes, like
Yeah.
nice beaver. Anyway, so it is still up in the air, but man, Alex is definitely fighting the good fight for giant hairy beavers everywhere. I mean, they were really hairy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the giant beaver, which is found across North America, including in our state of Oregon. That's where I first learned about it. And then there's like one species that's pretty much across the entire North America, and then there's a species that's only in the southern part. So the most recent paper I found on it said that the mass estimates are about 60 to 100 kilograms, which I actually I Googled it. So I actually, in pounds, that's 132 to 220 pounds. So we are talking, as all of the different propaganda for vote for my giant beaver is always like a bear-sized beaver. And I'm like, that's hot.
That's a skinny bear. That is a thin, underweight bear.
I saw a black bear in Texas, and that was the smallest bear I've ever seen. So I think that,
it's as big as a bear from Texas.
I would also like to point out to the Science Museum of Minnesota on your Castoroides ohioensis giant beaver page that you spelled Castoroides incorrectly. Just FYI. It's like a title. It's in big font. It's bold. And you added an extra I, so it's Castorioides. Anyway, FYI. Okay, so it was a big old beaver. I had actually a bit of a hard time finding anything that I really wanted them to be like embracing the joke, but they're serious scientists and they didn't. So they wrote their papers like normal, boring papers. So the one that I liked the best opened with the giant beaver, the largest rodent of the North American Pleistocene, is surrounded by controversy. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Why are we all so fucking dramatic? My God.
I know. Surrounded by controversy. No, guys, it's a dead fucking beaver. It's been dead for 10,000 years.
Katy Perry going to space.
And I was like, what controversy? It's just a supersized beaver. Apparently it's not just a supersized beaver.
Okay.
So the whole thing is about, it's not exciting. It's not like, should this be our state fossil? It's about if they actually were just like modern beavers and did the same things that modern beavers did, or if they were different types of beavers and lived a different beaver life. Like, that's the controversy. That was it. I also enjoyed that this one had lots of good nicknames for the giant beaver, including swamp rats and large, clumsy water hog. So thank you for that. I was like, finally.
Why don't you use that as your state fossil name? You're not the giant beavers. You're the large, clumsy water hog.
I just enjoy how many different animals get like wrapped into the comparison. Yeah. I wanted even more. I a big hairy bear. I don't know.
No-billed platypus.
Yeah. Yes, but that's part of the controversy, Megan. Thank you. Beautiful transition, because a platypus has like paddly tail, right?
A flat tail.
Yeah. So it's not thought that this beaver had a flat paddle tail like that. It had more of like a nutria rat tail kind of thing going on back there. Because the conclusion that I read from a bunch of different papers, the most recent of which was all about stable isotopes from both the bones of the fossils as well as like comparing it to plants, and that they weren't like normal today's beavers. They were so different. And instead, these ones were a lot more aquatic and were not as terrestrial at all. And again, I love this. It reminded me of the ankylosaur paper because it was like the short limbs and bulky body of Castoroides made it poorly adapted to a life spent predominantly on land, and it must have relied on access to the water for shelter from terrestrial predators. And I'm like, again, we are just like looking at these animals and body shaming them. We're like, look at their dumb bodies. They couldn't have done that. How did they migrate, you know? How did they get from
Hmm.
point A? I guess if they're in the water, it's like water slide. Woo!
Rivers. They can only go one direction, actually. Just downriver.
Right. So did they
That's why they
start in
went
the
extinct.
Arctic and then
They
so that's
got
not
to the
accurate too.
ocean and they
That's
died.
not how watershed works. Yeah. It's super funny. So, in terms of the like what you would look at, so it didn't
Hmm.
necessarily have a flat tail. And it had hind limbs that were much shorter than in modern beavers. And the tail was also longer. So,
Okay.
again, that's why they call it these, like, again, like clumsy. I love this. Animals being called
Clumsy
clumsy.
water hog.
Clumsy water hog with its dumb, bulky body that was so worthless on land. So they also point out that the teeth are a little bit larger as well, and they have those striations in them. Like they've got
Hmm.
the, I don't know what the actual anatomy term for that is, whereas modern beavers are nice
Oh.
and smooth enamel.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they did determine that by looking at isotopes in some of these bones, that the giant beaver could handle cold tolerant stuff because it was found in the Yukon and Alaska.
We needed isotopes to tell us that.
Yeah, right. I know. It's like the darkling beetle, the DNA. Oh, it's such a fun darkling beetle. Yeah, so they did think that it is more of like a wetlands, predominantly marsh and shallow lakes environment, and that
Okay.
it did not construct its habitat by constructing dams, and it did not chew down trees like modern beavers do. And they think that
Okay.
it went extinct because this wetlands, swamp, lake situation like
Hmm.
was less and less with climate change. And I wrote, so it's a sex lake situation.
Yeah, it sounds like sex lakes, but for walking.
Yeah, and so that's, I mean, those are kind of the highlights of it, I guess. I mean, yeah, they died about 10,000 years ago. There is some evidence that they interacted with early humans, legend and folklore, which is really
Hmm.
cool kind of paleo heritage situation. But yeah, I also just left with some questions like, okay, so they have these giant incisors like a beaver does. If they're not chewing on logs and they're just eating water plants like a nutria freak, what do nutria do to keep their incisors short? Aren't they ever growing? So how
Oh.
would this motherfucker not like just how would they deal with their ever growing incisors if they're not, getting that wood? Nothing a giant beaver likes more than.
I wonder if so like all rodents have ever growing teeth, right? Like that's kind of like
Right,
their
hit
jam.
coelodont. Yeah.
But I mean that doesn't mean that they all grow at the same rate, right? Like maybe
I
they
don't
just had
know.
slow ever growing teeth.
Well, but it makes me think about the semi-aquatic or fully aquatic ones today, like nutria. Like what are
Hmm.
and their teeth are gross. Theirs are like they're like red incisors.
Yeah.
They're giant. Ugh, they're icky. So I was like, okay, cool. I like the data. I like the end to the controversy. Wow, I was really worried. I was like losing sleep. I was so concerned with this. Yes. Yes. Yeah, but those are my fun facts about the hopefully soon to be state fossil of Minnesota. You should embrace it and embrace your giant beaver.
Yeah.
Just
I I love the giant beaver. I'm so sad that I have not yet found a giant beaver or actually found a sloth on my own at any of these Pleistocene sites that I keep getting roped into. So, um, I don't think any giant beavers have been found in Washington State yet. So, fingers crossed one day one will weather
it wasn't
out.
on the list, but they should be
Yeah.
there hypothetically. I mean, maybe your sex lakes went out earlier. But that's the thing is like they were in Oregon and Oregon is still pretty swampy and marshy and wet, moist. So I am kind of like, but there is some, again, it could have been hunting
Hmm.
as well related because all of the mythologies are like, and then we hunted it and slaughtered it. So okay, not all of them, but that was the general vibe is kill it. So maybe we just killed them all.
I mean, I don't know what regular beaver
Oh, yeah.
tastes like, but like we do hunt them for their fur, or we have for their fur. So,
Oh, yeah.
do we have any like mummified Castoroides, or do we just have bones?
No.
Hmm.
We just have, I mean,
I
enough.
guess we wouldn't argue about the tail if we had mummified Castoroides, right?
Yeah. And that one of the cool things about the specimen from Minnesota that was also funny because it was like in a little cave,
Hmm.
like underneath like an undercut, and then it collapsed on it. So I also thought of you.
Why?
And I'm just like, can't know. It's like, it's
A
most,
dark cave for your beaver?
but one of the things that it, spelunking for giant beaver. Yes.
Cave-based lesbianism.
Oh my God. And I have been listening to a lot of Chapel Roan lately, so embrace your giant beaver. That's what I'm saying.
Big
That's all
Beaver
I'm
Club.
saying.
I'm gonna keep on digging to the
They played that at SVP, and I was like, what is this? I love it. So I'm old. It took me a while to get there. Oh, anyway, it was in this kind of karst environment, so a lot of limestone. So it was about like 12,000 years old. So it had kind of this calcified
Ooh,
rind on it.
Cute.
Like it was partially stalagmited and stalactite-mited. Yeah. And that's how it was able to preserve so well. And they were super excited in this paper because the other specimens of Castroides up until this point, which is in like the 60s, were mostly just like the axial skeleton. So like backbone and skull and whatnot, and maybe some isolated incisors. And this one, the whole paper is like, it has feet! Feet! Especially in consideration to the feet. And I'm like, oh, this giant beaver is on OnlyFans with some big ass feet. Like, it was just so funny. It was like the whole thing. I think if I had searched feet, it was like 20 times. And like,
wow.
Oh, look at its feet. So it was cool because it preserved not the axial skeleton. So like just the arms and feet and the skull. And I'm like, that's weird. How do you do that? So interesting preservation, cool Pleistocene things. I should have said that, yes, in addition to being about 200 pounds, they could have been about 7 feet long. And the whole time I was thinking about the classes that we took together about reconstructing body size and what we've discussed. And I think that's what you're going to tell
Oh my
me a
God.
little bit about.
Yeah. Want more content and you don't want to wait? Or maybe you don't want to hear ads like this? Well, head on over to our Patreon for exclusive content, early ad-free episodes, and so much more. For only $5 a month, you can hear outtakes, exclusive episodes, and the stuff we cut for time. And also the stuff we cut because it was just too much for the general public.
Looking for fresh fashion with a science twist? Be sure to check out Geopetal Fabric, Megan's clothing company. These geek chic designs look fantastic and make for excellent conversation starters. Plus, get 10% off using code WEIRDANDDEAD. Head on over to geopetalfabric.com now.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Josephoartigasia, which I do feel like maybe you gave me that one in part because it was the harder one to say and you didn't want to learn how to pronounce it. And I just refused. So it might not be that, and I don't care.
You're on to me.
Yeah, so Josephoartigasia is the biggest rodent of all time, the largest extinct rodent. When they say that, they are talking specifically about Josephoartigasia monesi because there are 2 species. Except, first off, first controversy, fucking are there?
Uh-oh.
Fucking are there? Because that's always my thing, right?
Are there any species?
I don't know. Okay,
Right,
so,
of course.
So these 2, I say species, 2 specimens. 2 specimens.
Oh. Oh, well, now I see why you are so angry.
Yeah. So in the 1960s, they find a loose jaw of Josephoartigasia. I think they called it fucking major, which is hilarious because it's the smaller one. Is that what it's called? Whatever. I don't care. It's not Josephoartigasia monesi. So in the 60s, they find this in Uruguay on the beach, rolled out just a loose jaw of a big capybara-like animal. And I can't read Spanish and was too lazy to translate it. But I did notice that in the headline, they really emphasize the fact that it is big, which is the only thing anyone cares about with Josephoartigasia, is that it's fucking big.
Yep.
So they find this jaw. The other thing that I saw that is translated from Wikipedia, so like there's a little bit of a game of telephone in addition to a language barrier there, so take this with a grain of salt, is that apparently it's a partial jaw, and it's missing the M3, the 3rd molar, and it looks like it actually rotted out of the jaw.
Like,
so like,
ugh. Oh,
So it was an
but
older
all
one.
their molars look exactly the same. Okay, that's probably wrong, but
I
all
mean,
rodent
pretty
teeth look
much.
exactly the
Yeah.
same to me. I am just like, look at those squiggles. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
squiggly, squiggly long, ever-growing things. You have this
Yep.
old jaw. They decided that it came from the San Jose, I think it's San Jose Formation, because that's
Okay.
nearby, but it was just a loose jaw sitting on the beach. Then cut to
Great.
2008-ish, that's when they published it at least.
Okay, that tracks.
They find a skull in a boulder on the same beach. So it's in a boulder. So it's not part of the formation, but at least there's enough rock there that they can definitely say it's the San Jose Formation.
Compare it.
And
Yeah.
they just, in the species description, they just say it's a different species because it's so much bigger. And I ran out of time, but I don't know how much bigger it is. And I don't know that maybe it just had a small jaw, guys. Maybe it just had a big fat head and a small
Great.
jaw.
I just had a little hillbilly jaw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
No offense.
yeah, JD Vance. Yeah, so we've got like a skull and a jaw of apparently two vastly different sizes that are found in the same beach
Okay.
from the same formation. So that's all of the specimens I think that we currently have of this big,
Oh wow.
big rodent.
Oh, fun.
So,
Okay, great, awesome.
yeah, so really
Wonderful.
setting us up for a
I
great
love
amount
it.
of success. What we do know and what everyone agrees with is that they're not in the same family as capybaras, but they're kind of capybara-esque. They're
Okay.
caviamorph, so they all kind of look capybara shaped.
Which is right. Just a
Yeah.
big rodent.
It's just a
It's like, what do you think that's
big,
gonna look like? It's that.
it's just a big rodent with like kind of unsettlingly small feet for the size of its head. That's what I think of when I think of capybaras, is those feet should be
Why,
bigger.
yeah, why is it all about the feet? These fucking
Yeah.
weirdos. Fucking cavamore. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh,
But
all rodents are into feet.
it's not in the same family. It's the only living member of that family is called a pachyrana. And pachyranas, they let me find the Wikipedia quote for them. It was so sad.
Was it large, clumsy water hog?
It's even kind of worse, honestly. Here is the description of pachyranas from Wikipedia. Noted resource, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It has, like an overview of pachyranas, which is basically like, they look kind of like capybaras, but they have stripes and maybe they're in trees. And here is what it said in characteristics. I'm going to read you the full
ready.
characteristics.
I'm
Are you
ready.
ready? But honestly, the first sentence really just sells it. Pachyrana have 4 legs and large heads.
Oh my God.
They are considered a scansorial species. When they eat, they grasp their food with their forepaws while sitting on their hind legs. Full stop. That's all that apparently we know about them.
I mean, honestly, that is like not that far off from how I'd describe an Oreodont. So I kind of love that.
I know.
I would
4
love to see
limbs and large
an Oreodont
heads.
sitting on
Thank
its little
you.
butt like a little rodent eating grass. Yeah, that's great. That is like
I
the
love
most...
that they clarified 4 limbs, not 2, not 6, 4. 4 limbs, Amy.
I had a conversation yesterday with someone who was like, yeah, it's not like I got 4 knees. And I was like, well, you kind of do. It's not like you would call a cat's forearms arms. You would just call all those knees. You do have 4 knees. And he was like, and I was like, please just fix my iPhone screen. I'm going to go shopping. Yeah, it was great. So
that's pachyrranas. And the other thing that I found out about pachyrranas is I learned a new word, which was, now I have to find the new word on my thing here. When I was reading the original description, they mention that the largest living rodent is a capybara at 60 kilograms, and the next is the sylvatic pachyrana at 15 kilograms. I had to look up sylvatic because I'd never heard that word before. And I will tell you that what comes up on Google is not what they meant, because what comes up on Google is plague bearing. which
Well,
just seems like a really mean thing to say about this animal that we only know it has four limbs and a
this
big
barrel
head.
with legs is infested with the plague. But like, no, but maybe it really does mean that because the prairie dogs carry the plague. I look at them like every day at work and I'm just like, you disgusting creatures.
Yeah, it means living on the edge of the forest, which I think is the
Nope. I
version
don't.
that they were going
I
with.
prefer plague. Nope. Plague. Plague. Okay, so they're able to determine. So with the fossil, is it all just morphology, or is there like is it all just morphological that's making it that type of rodent?
Yes, so it's all just morphological that's making it that type of rodent. The formation they think now is Pleistocene. It used to be considered Pliocene,
Oh. Mm.
but now they think it might be Pleistocene. So I guess in theory, maybe could DNA test it,
No
but
one wants to bring them back. No one cares. I just want to see how big it
well,
is.
nobody wants to bring them back, Amy. And I can tell you, there's really one thing that they care about with this rodent, and that's
Size.
not something you get from DNA. And then they slightly care about two other things. So, yeah, the big question about Josephoartigasia, how fucking big
Right.
was it? And do you want to guess how? So, this paper was published in
Right. Right.
2008. How many papers have been published describing how big it is?
I mean, I'm pretty sure one is Hopkins.
One is Hopkins.
I think I know at least two, but probably like five. I'm gonna go with like five.
So I found
Oh
six
wow.
papers that deal with talking about its size, if you include the original paper, which I do because that's the only thing they care about. They barely talk about anything else with it. So Josephoartigasia monesi, it's definitely the biggest rodent, but how big is it? Because as we see with the Pachyrana, the issue is that head
Yeah.
is really
Right.
fucking big.
Disproportionate. Yeah. It's a large, clumsy water hog. Come on, we don't know. It was weird looking. We don't even have feet.
And we only have the head and a jaw of a different species. We don't even have feet. We have no real idea if it follows the big head trend. When you are reconstructing body size, as you
Yay.
know,
Yeah, like on this exact paper in stats class in college. Yeah, exactly.
it's important to note that they don't mean how long was it. They don't mean how tall was it, how
Right.
wide was it. They mean body mass.
How much did it
How
weigh?
fat was this goddamn
I
rodent?
mean, the body shaming. Why do we have to care? Why does it matter so much? Can't we just accept
For
and love
real.
them for who they are? Why?
For real.
Why must we categorize every body?
That seems to be the only thing that we really truly give a shit about is arguing with one another about how big it is. Because if you use their teeth, you get like, if you use the square, like, amount of chewing area, that normally correlates okay with body size. But it turns out that it correlates differently in rodents
Right.
than it does in other animals. And it probably correlates different in capybaras and pachyrana than it does in other
And if
animals.
Pachyrana,
So, like, all of a sudden you
like
get
if the only modern one is only 15 kilograms, right? Then it's a terrible analogy to then just inflate that, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
that's shitty when you don't have something in between to be able to bracket it.
And the skull is not perfectly complete. So if people are using the length of the skull, sometimes you, I guess, have to interpret a little bit as to whether the nose bones went further than I think that they actually are on the skull. So there's a little bit of estimation that's involved. And then some other people, to interpret the size, have used the occipital condyles, which is where your head connects to your neck. And like some, I think capybaras, but like definitely some other caviomorpha rodents, they have really large paroccipital processes. So they have like these big phalanges that go out past the occipital condyles, but kind of also merge with it a little bit. Like
Nice
they're
meaty tuck. Okay.
right. So if the idea is that your occipital condyle, because it's holding your head to your body, should have a good idea, it should be useful for predicting how big your body is. So a whole paper was out arguing, well, we should actually include the paroccipital condyles because these are so big. Like these processes are so big.
We
So
want credit. We just like we want to
yeah. And then
categorize this.
I did read very briefly read a different paper that wasn't actually about Josephoartigasia, but it was on weird paroccipital condyle stuff that said that maybe it actually had the best title I've seen in a long time. And this is the only other thing, of course, that we really know about pacaronas, but it's about an extinct one, which I think is very funny. Why pacaronas never say no. Analysis of the unique occipital cervical configuration.
Oh, so they couldn't. Is
blah, blah,
that
blah,
their
blah,
way of saying it couldn't?
They can't shake.
Oh yeah, I got that wrong. So they can't. But that's
Yeah.
I don't like that title at all.
I still thought it was funny. But yeah, okay. So yeah, they've got maybe they can't shake their heads. So do you actually use the occipital condyles? Do you use the molars? Do you use the skull length?
And why do we care?
How are we still fucking talking about this? The last paper about this was in 2024. Yep. Why do we care so much? The mass estimates that have rolled out from these different things have ranged from, on the low end, 269 kilograms.
Whoa.
To, on the high end, more than 2,000 kilograms.
Whoa. What?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that's a lot. Are you really not going to help me? Okay, 2,000.
I didn't translate all of them, but the
4,400 pounds. What?
Yes. Yeah. So we're going from like 400 pounds to 4,000 pounds.
Oh my God.
That's the range.
Logarithmic difference. Oh my God.
I guess it's not technically the most recent one, but the one that I actually like read in the greatest depth and then also like translated everything to. They had a range just with the paracondyles was 254 to 576 kilograms, which is 560 to 1,270 pounds.
Wow.
And I will say, female cows can weigh 1 to 2,500 pounds. So this is like a small female cow, but not like one of my cows because miniature cows typically weigh between like 300 and 500. So this would be bigger than my mini cows.
And bigger than my giant beaver. Wow.
Way bigger than your giant beaver. Yeah. Even those are the small estimates, right? Like.
Right. Okay. So even on the small
we've scaled it down and it's still really big. So not a bear-sized beaver, but maybe a bear-sized capybara thing.
Wow. And what did it do with its forelimbs? I mean, is it just like a grazing thing? Is it?
I'm so glad you brought it up.
Like, what do capybara do? Are they like, what kind of ecosystem do they live in? I have no idea.
Capybara are grazers, pretty much exclusively, I guess. They really, really dig the grass for some reason, but they are also semi-aquatic. So just like all of these big things, nothing big likes to not float. So capybaras spend a lot of time in the water.
They're so large and clumsy.
I think they eat quite a lot of water plants as well.
Interesting.
And I didn't see any real papers doing analysis on how Josephoartigasia lived. So it sounds like they think that the San Jose Formation was maybe an estuary and that this animal was maybe kind of living semi-aquatically and eating grass. But that does bring me to my next point, which is once a person has stopped giving a shit about how big this animal is, which apparently for some of us is never, we will never care about that.
Size queen.
The next most common, there's two types of paper, and they're the only other types of paper I've ever seen on Josephoartigasia. So we don't know really what it eats. We don't really know, like,
who cares?
Anything about it. Yeah, none of that matters.
Fat. Just eat something that makes you fat.
Our two questions are, how big is your brain? And what those teeth do, man. How bad is that bite? You got some big teethies. Those are some big biteys. So we've got two papers for each of them because this is going to be the new wave of Josephoartigasia is instead of arguing out how big it is, let's argue about how hard it can fucking bite.
Of course. Duh.
And I can already tell you that the estimates are fucking insane. But it is.
I bit down a whole tree.
I mean, honestly, with some of these estimates, like, it's made me really stop trusting finite element analysis papers because I looked at them and was like, oh, you didn't translate any of your uncertainty. There's no error propagation in here.
Right.
And you already have huge ranges in your estimates. And it looks like, and I admittedly kind of, my eyes blurred and I stopped caring, but
yeah,
it looks like maybe a lot of these bite force papers are really just putting these skulls under strain to see what the maximum bite is. And just because you can like pull out Superman level strength when your child is under a car or you need to bite a tree or something. Doesn't necessarily mean that
Or some
that's
weird scientists are playing with your skull when you're dead.
yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how often or how hard you bit on the reg.
Right. Okay.
It
Why?
looks like they just do stress tests and they're like, when does the skull shatter?
Why does it matter?
If the skull hasn't shattered, then it's still
Their
biting,
skull didn't
I
fucking
guess.
shatter because they existed for a while. Fine. They didn't all just shatter their skulls all the fucking time. I just
Yeah.
don't. I'm like, how did these things live? I don't know. They obviously didn't live. Well, they obviously lived. Like, we know they lived.
Yeah.
Why are we?
They bit each other. That's, yeah. Well, we don't even know what they were doing with their teeth, but because why would we? Yeah. These are, I think the word is hystricomorph. They're a group of rodents that includes caviomorph. They're all rodents where they evolutionarily at some point needed more musculature to chew and said, fuck it, let's take a shortcut.
Right.
And instead of doing what pretty much all other animals do, where we run our muscles over the bone, they saw the infraorbital foramen and said, I'm going to just
I'm
squeeze
gonna put
in
my
there.
muscle in there.
Yeah, so they took a hole and they pushed some muscle into it and made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And they run part of their, I think it's their masseter muscle through that fucking hole, which means that they just have different bite strengths, first off, because they have different constraints because they have musculature that's working in different directions. But it also means they have a lot of bite strengths. So let me scroll down to where I had put my estimates, but I want you to think about how hard you think that this animal could bite.
I don't know. I don't know it in like a number. I would need it to be like I bit through a tree. I bit through the Jello. I don't know. So because people do this with T-Rex all the time and I can never remember the numbers because I don't care. But I also doesn't like, it's not tied to anything real for me. So it's really, and since they're dead, I'll never know what they were chomping on with them big old teeth. So just tell me.
Okay, so like there's, of course, as we've mentioned, there's multiple estimates because we just aren't original, I guess. And so the first estimate said about 3,000 newtons. And the second estimate said that actually you have two different measurements. At the incisors, you get 1,300 newtons. And at the molars, you get 4,000 newtons. And I know that none of that makes any sense. So I looked up how hard a dog can bite. And these are actual tests of dogs biting. So I don't know what that cross compares to. And they can bite between 13 and 1,300 newtons, so 1,300 newtons. So the estimates are
front teeth are
dog,
like a
bite or worse. Yeah. Dog bite or significantly, dog bite or double dog bite.
Can we not also just use our eyes and look at that skull and also know that it could do that? Like, again, I'm just like, I feel like sometimes, yes, we need to actually go through the work and put the numbers to it. But some things I'm like, really? Like, this just seems, okay, whatever. You need that line on your CV. Go for it.
It could bite really hard. I saw somewhere comparing it to like crocodile bite estimates, but then I couldn't find actual numbers for that. So I don't know. But the question is, why? Why would you bite that hard? Like, what's the point if you eat grass? Grass doesn't run.
Couldn't it just be a byproduct of evolving to large sizes?
Yeah. Sure could.
Right? Like, why does it have to be, I bite so hard? It's like, you just got big. It's like, I'm a gentle giant and I could still bite my own little cheeky. It hurts.
I mean, from the very little research we've done, it looks like they look kind of capybara-esque and they probably ate fucking grass. So they didn't necessarily need to have strong bite forces, but multiple times rodents have evolved to eat nuts. We do have some rodents that have evolved to be carnivores. Grasshopper mice are well known to be pure carnivores.
Yeah.
Rodents do use their jaws for different things.
So, okay, so they're curb stomping.
Yeah, but sometimes your ancestor did something. They're curb stomping, or probably their ancestors were curb stomping and they just have strong faces, but they chose peace.
And grass. Yeah. That's what I choose every day too. Oh God. Okay, cool. Wow. I'm so glad. Because I feel like we had to do that. We had to propagate the error the right way in that stats class using like calculus and it sucked. And I remember having to care because we had to do the math and it was
Yeah.
annoying. And now I can't look at any mass estimate and not get upset. So thanks,
Yeah.
Edward.
So error propagation is the statistical idea that when you are, because we've just noticed that we went from 200 to 2,000 pounds, of newtons or whatever. Like there's these
Right.
huge uh, estimate variations, and those are not error propagated. That's just the error taking everything at face value that went into a model. But for example, in order to calculate the bite strength, they had to calculate how flexible the bone is for a rodent to
Mm-hmm.
know at what point it would snap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they just took a general rodent number and they didn't provide any degree of uncertainty. So, what if some rodents have stiffer faces than others?
Right.
You have to take the error from that. Then you have to take the error from, well, how strong are these muscle fibers? And then you have to take the error from, like how big are these ridges? You have to take all of that error and add it up together using fucking calculus most of the time to figure out what the actual uncertainty is. So yeah, with error propagation, a lot of these papers would have way bigger estimates and they already have
Right.
pretty big fucking estimates.
Yeah.
So,
Which makes it pretty meaningless when you actually
yeah,
want to do or say anything about how big it was. And it's get a real
which
job. I
is
don't know.
this is
Go.
why all of these papers can redo this same stuff over and over again. It's not just because they're using slightly different techniques, it's because a lot of them are not using error propagation, which means that there's still so much wiggle room in the model that someone else could like provide slightly different numbers, use the same algorithm, and get a completely different answer. So,
And then, again, who fucking cares? But I mean,
yeah,
that's a big rodent. That's big.
yeah,
That's way bigger than any of today's
hmm,
rodents. So cool.
yeah.
Good for you. ROUS, cool. We already knew that.
So the other grouping of papers about Josephoartigasia is really just how big were their brains? Because I guess for whatever reason, the first paper that came out said, well, actually, for their body size, their brain space is much smaller than you'd think. And then a second paper came out and said, no, actually, it's normal. And also, they had good sniffers. Their
Big
sniffing brain
olfactories.
portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's okay. I love it. Also, it's one skull, right? It's like one skull. So we're also talking about how big its
Hmm.
brain. Is it even a full-grown adult? Like, I mean,
I think so, but I don't know. I don't know what rodent baby teeth look like.
how much variation are there in modern rodent species? Is there sexual
Oh God.
dimorphism? Is there, I don't know.
So my last piece of information about this stupid genus is it is a theory I myself have come up with. Are you ready?
Oh,
Prepare
these are my
yourself.
favorite. I think we're gonna, our philosophy here is gonna be great.
So if you are tired of writing papers about how big this animal is, and you're like, what else is there to study about Josephoartigasia? Let me tell you, I was reading through Wikipedia.
That's how it begins.
Some interesting things about capybaras. So capybaras, most rodents in general are hindgut fermenters. I always get this
Oh,
confused. But
oh,
they have their fermentation in the back, which means
oh.
they are slightly less effective. I guess rodents have changed that a little bit, so they do have some bacteria in their foregut, so it's like they're not committing one way or the other really, but for the most part, they're hindgut fermenters, which means they're not as efficient. So capybaras have gotten around that the same way rabbits do by being autocoprophagous.
Yay! I hoped you were going there. I pooped you were
Yes.
going there. And then I ate it.
Self-poop eaters. They eat their own poop and they run it
Is
back
it like
through
the sheep?
once.
Do they not want to eat each other's poop? Will they eat each other's poop? Is it a preference
I
for one's
actually
own poop?
I would assume it's a preference because it's just close proximity. I think they poop it out and they're like, that's not done yet. Let's send that one down through again. But I don't know what happens if you're like, is that what a potluck is?
What if you're
Poop
hungry?
luck? It'd be convenient.
Oh my God, that is great. That's disgusting.
So my theory is that Josephoartigasia had such strong jaws because it had horrible constipation and it just had rock hard turds that it had to chew. So
had to eat
someone needs to look into the rock hard turd crunching avenue. That can be the next Nature paper on Josephoartigasia. Stop talking about how fucking big it is. Talk about whether it was eating its own poop.
So it's like a nutcracker. It's a poop cracker.
Yeah.
Turd cracker, bone crushing rodent, but like poop crushing rodent. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, why not? Or maybe there's still some hard parts in the poop, right? That, these nutty poops that you're re-eating. What are we having tonight? Leftovers.
I will say that for those of you who are wondering, you don't need to Google it. I will tell you that most autocoprophagous animals, it's not an infinity poop cycle. They haven't unlocked infinity food. They eat it once. So they just run it through that second wash and then they're done.
But how do they know?
I would assume the reason that
if they're eating pretty constantly?
Well, if you are eating your poop, it's because it's not fully digested. So I would assume that they can either smell the bacteria that they pooped out, or they would tell that it's like soft and still full of...
It still smells good.
Yeah, it still smells good.
As I sit next to a bag of Taco Bell and I'm like,
I mean, the way that Taco Bell sometimes burns on the way out would imply that it does probably retain a lot of its original kind of chemistry.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of something I want to do for a future episode, but
okay.
Ooh, mystery, intrigue, feces. Oh, gross. I love that. Why aren't people talking about that? That's way more interesting.
God, right? I think how big those turds would have been. That's way more interesting. I want to know how big your poops are.
That's a good point. Those are some pretty big poops. Yeah, how big is a capybara poop? I mean, do they eat their poop? Do they poop in the water?
They are autocoprophagous. That's how I know about it.
Does they want a Slurpee?
Slurpee? Oh my God.
Wow, such large,
that just caught up to me. Dear
water hog.
God.
There are things wrong with me. It's true. This is very true. But I don't eat my own poop. You know. Well, I mean, and that, I feel like I didn't mention that in mine either. One of the other lines of evidence of why because we actually care about what giant beavers were doing in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Unlike yours. Yeah. And the whole, were they chopping logs or not? Another line of evidence that they were not is that we don't have any wood that has giant beaver marks in it. So there's been no matching of the giant incisors to any wood. And they also said that some lakes that had been claimed to be dammed by beavers were just like coincidence, but they definitely affect their ecosystem in a large way. And that's what a lot of these folklore legends were about as well, is about the giant beaver just running around the Midwest area, kind of like damming up all the Great Lakes. And that was the mythology for that. And the gods were like, stop doing that. And then like chasing them all over, creating these different topographic features of the area, all being explained by these giant beavers and like being chased after. But yeah, I also really appreciated the title of this paper. I will tell you it's from 1972. So there's some things about it I didn't love, but it's called The Giant Beaver, a Prehistoric Memory.
Oh.
But I've like modern day fantasy. Anyway, okay. But yeah, it's all about these different folklore evidence of, that are these stories from the Algonquin people and Glooskap, who would come through and find all these dams and then would find the giant beavers. So then he would go kill the entire family one by one, the young ones, the old ones. He broke the dam and killed the beavers by spearing. He saw another young beaver going up, so he threw 2 stones to frighten him. And those are now these rocks that are these falls in the area. And so the paper was very interesting because it was essentially like, this is folklore. These are oral traditions from indigenous people. Are they useful in a scientific archaeological context? And the author of this is very much arguing, yes, like absolutely. That there's two takes on this. The take could be that either the indigenous people really did interact with the giant beaver and have these folklore stories, or they themselves found the bones and fossils of the
Ooh.
giant beaver and were like, oh shit, this is some giant ass beaver, because we also kill beavers all the time, so we know what a beaver skull looks like. And then she related to like talking about mastodon and how we knew about man and mastodon interactions before, from oral traditions, before we had physical evidence of Clovis people with mammoth or mastodon kill sites. And so her point is, hey, we shouldn't just discount these oral traditions just because they're not physical evidence. And then they found this cave. When did they discover this
Ooh.
cave? In 1995, so again, like quite a bit after this paper is written, they found this, again, karst sinkhole in Ohio. I didn't make you identify Ohio. And they found, it's a Paleo-Indian site that dates to about 12,000 years old, that finds spear points, flint, hide scraper, as well as remains of a giant short-faced bear, a moose, giant beaver, and a peccary. So we do now, again, have physical evidence that early humans did interact. It does appear that it wasn't just a random collection of that in the karst, that they were brought there deliberately by the humans. Thank you for listening. If you like the podcast, be sure to rate and review us on your listening platform of choice. We really, really, really appreciate it.
If you'd like to hear more and support the show, you can follow us on Patreon for some exclusive bits, or on our various social media platforms. You can follow Amy on Instagram at Mary Anning's Revenge,
and Megan on Instagram and TikTok as GeoPedalFabric, or both of us at Weird and Dead on Instagram and TikTok. Our theme song is Unlock Me by Praz Canal. Cover art was provided by Chris Spencer and the hosts.
And this has been hosted and researched by us, Amy Atwater and Megan Weatherall. Thank you for listening. Oh yeah, hold on. Logan, I kept the door open because otherwise there's a big echo, but we are filming.
You have to leave.
So just so you know, we are filming. So you look great in your underwear. Please go sit in our bedroom. Stop opening